Marvel has probably the most compelling catalogue of characters and stories in the Western world, a collection that has been growing since 1939. What were pulpy stories and larger-than-life characters in comic books have transcended the medium and become blockbuster stars. This success has seen countless incarnations in video games with varying levels of success, but Marvel's Avengers is the first to be live service. And its live service nature gets in the way of making it a compelling narrative story. Hi, I'm Obsessing Again, and this is how Marvel Avengers live service bloats story. In 2025, the game servers have been dead for 2 years, so how does that factor into the game? Well, quite poorly. Straight from the offset, beyond the terrible UI design, the story had undeniable hope and promise. I went into the game unaware to the extent of the multiplayer element, so I was pleasantly surprised for the first few hours. Kamala Khan, who we later see become Miss Marvel, is the swashbuckling, wide-eyed child who is excited and giddy at the chance of meeting the Avengers. She is the bright spot in this story, a character I'm largely unfamiliar with. Her perspective in the story throughout breathes new life into a cast we're all familiar with. We meet her boarding the events of A-Day, packed with carnival-style activities and Avengers merch. This curated experience is tailored to the adolescent excitement of going to a concert for your favourite artist. Her excitement is infectious, and when you encounter Thor or Captain America, you can empathise with her joy. This tightly curated moments is unpolished compared to most narrative-driven games, but it allowed me to become more attached to the character.
Oh, you're funny.
Yes, I am.
When the city becomes under attack is the moment we see the heroes being heroic. Thor swinging his hammer, punching enemies is just joyful. A tutorial with the dramatic highs of being in the Avengers is quickly enhanced when controlling Iron Man. Whilst these are strict linear segments, as an opening it works really well. The back and forth between heroes, the setting, all of it is what we've come to love about this universe. You feel the tremendous strength and ability, which has to be praised. The traversal from Iron Man is uniquely different from Thor's skill set, and very different from the Incredible Hulk. These brief moments of traversal are fun. Ragdolling enemies captures the essence of his strength. Black Widow is oddly the best hero to use. Guns as her arsenal, with hand-to-hand combat and unruly force.
Inventions are dangerous, Stark.
Hey, those weapons were meant for the good guys.
Is that supposed to be a joke?
Not the time. Get your heads in the game.
The first hour of this story is quite solid. Regular citizens become inhuman, the banishment of powers, and the abandoned Avengers is far more compelling than most of the mainline films. It is a story set up with intrigue and being reflective on what the roles of a hero or an inhuman plays in society. These strict linear levels become to unravel, and not to the benefit of the story. From the point of meeting Kamala, the Avengers, and jumping across rooftops is where the bloat begins.
I really messed up.
Where the game is fundamentally flawed and held back is the persistence of loot boxes. In a game that is now offline, the loot boxes are not only out of place but mostly redundant. In missions that have adrenaline going and an overall flow, you don't want to disrupt that as a player. The game will have a glowing box hoping you'll stop your heroics to watch a generic opening animation that never alternates. As the game now offers all users free skins, the grind of doing extra missions is redundant, as well as opening loot boxes. The most worthy reward is improving the stats of your heroes.
Let's salvage what we can and get out of here.
The open area style levels do not feel expansive, they feel claustrophobic and more like arenas. Upon playing this, my objective was mainlining the story. The side elements of these levels feels bloated. The enemies, the placing of them, and mini objective is ridden in wanting you to grind resources. It has no story to it, nor compelling gameplay. These side parts are designed to keep you in the game longer through loot boxes. The war table has recycled missions just with different objectives. Unfortunately, the geographical locations aren't varied. If you're a fan of Evil Layers in Utah, you're in luck. The missions are farming our mindless engagement. Though the characters may have back and forth dialogue, each jump, leap, kick begins to feel like a retread. There are games that exist beyond the Avengers, such as The Division or, more importantly, Destiny 2, which capitalise on this. Mainly because of varied gameplay, deeper customization. All of what Marvel Avengers is attempting is resting on the years of loyalty and attachment fans have for Marvel, as opposed to what the game is building. Character outfits can be earned, swapped, but it's just a skin, and for that skin, the character model's face you don't associate plastered on an armoured suit. It's more immersion breaking than enhancing. The mannerisms are mostly there, along with the auras which are fitting, but there's this consistent feeling that their outfits are just costumes. You have a never-ending list for all characters and what they wear, but the acting or character motivations never quite align. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans are synonymous with their heroes, so to have other faces is slightly distracting. I think this can be attributed to Batman having many reincarnations. The same can be applied for Spider-Man. In my mind, because of the different actors on the silver screen and in-game, there isn't a specific one I associate with. Troy Baker's performance of a downtrodden Bruce Banner feels overly watered down. An actor of his calibre isn't given much to work with other than light inner turmoil about him becoming Hulk, which just doesn't tell us more about his character. A stellar cast across all the Avengers, and to have this ill-placed Bruce and Kamala driving the first part of this story needed a better driving force. Their dynamic feels oddly grounded and understandable, but it takes a long time for the story to gain momentum because of it.
Watch yourself out there.
I will if you will.
Companions are a vital component to levels. As you acquire more sidekicks through campaign or side missions, the better collection of team you have at your disposal. The offline is felt in how there are still search functions for getting online players. It's clear that these style missions narratively don't have a protagonist. This is where the live service makes a worse story because of this. If it was centered purely on Miss Marvel, it could be a more compelling narrative about seeing the heroes through the eyes of Kamala. It's also clear the game wanted you to play co-op, and even if you chose not to, the multiplayer integration is hard to look past. I will say the AI is considerably more helpful than you'd expect, but the painful missed opportunity is easily the fact you can't switch characters in game. Switching from Iron Man shooting rockets from the sky to Hulk smashing would have made the game less stale. Maybe this would have dated the game to the likes of the older LEGO games, and perhaps leveling would be slower, but that stuff is largely redundant when the game's servers are offline. Live service games only work based on player engagement, which is why the game leans into the collaborative nature of playing with friends. Strictly following the main missions, you never feel overwhelmed with enemy types, so the grindy element of doing side activities to enhance skill trees is largely void. The heroes are broken down mostly into 3 sections, ones that swing or fly, ones that shoot a form or something, and then just brute force. They all have their 3 unique abilities, but they are easily understandable. There is no reason why they couldn't consider offline play, or should I say terminated server play.
Ciao!
Skill trees is a feature that is so underutilized if you're not going to play beyond the main story. Each hero has a skill tree, but the skill points you acquire throughout the game wouldn't be able to even max out any hero. This for me fundamentally breaks the game. Why bother unlocking heroes when I can focus my effort on a handful rather than spreading myself thin? The way the story incorporates its heroes and the way you acquire them leaves more to be desired. For story purposes, the way they slot into the story is understandable, but by the time you have the Avengers assembled, the story is over. A 12-hour story was largely played as Ms. Marvel, Hulk and Iron Man, which doesn't encapsulate the Avengers thing. Some missions centre around finding or being a new hero, but the bigger players are brought in far too late.
I am warning you. What's the matter, Bruce? Make you angry? See, it's always been your problem. Running from who you are, what you are. Maybe that's why Monica got the better of you.
And every great hero needs a great adversary. You can't compete with the magnitude of Thanos, but MODOK is forgettable, and he's not the ultimate foe. An understandable bitter backstory cannot solely make a villain great. The real story's villain is AIM as a corporation. Like most modern stories, it's a tech business that has a very good front but with a nefarious background. This isn't groundbreaking, you don't feel threats, nor intimidation. Iron Man, Captain America, fighting a tech corporation isn't something I can get pumped for or emotionally invested in. With character arcs and face-offs like the Joker and Batman or Peter and Doc Ock, there's an emotional investment. The later stages of this story is when the group of heroes form to become the Avengers. But like I said earlier, by the time they unite, we're close to the end of the story. Life service stunts the growth of character, and just about everything it touches. Side missions are just repurposed environments, enemies, and stupid towers with turrets. Loot boxes can't even tap into the excitement of mystery. If you can upgrade your gear substantially, it barely makes you shrug. Marvel is heroes, stories, adventure, relating to character, and this game captures nothing. It's more like a simulation for MODOK to watch us shuffle towards a controller, grinding away at resources, defeating varying robotic enemies, even the likes of walking the Chimera or Crimera, whatever it's called. Watching heroes peer at inanimate objects with the recycled animations and gaunt ponder couldn't even convince me of their interest.
So you do what you need to do. We're leaving at dawn.
The lasting legacy of this game's bare-boned campaign is seen in the desolate wasteland of side missions after the story. The story should have been the springboard into this portrayal of the Avengers. It leaves you thinking, why was so much money, time and effort spent in this game, with nothing to justify its exist? I didn't experience what players had at launch, but assessing the core components the game offered a few years after it came out, it's just hollow. I struggled to see where the development was put. To give the team credit, new stories eventually came out, but the stories and missions behind them felt like unpolished tech demos. And by this point, Marvel Avengers lived long enough to become the villain.
Humans.
We can't let that happen. The world needs the Avengers now more than ever.
Thank you for letting me obsess again.